Dress back then, how times changed. That was 1956, when the only controversy attached to the Olympic torch was the great Aussie gotcha, not protests and violence. Well, the Chinese called the 2008 torch relay a journey of harmony. Instead, it's turned into a trouble-plagued trek that threatens to snuff out this Olympic tradition. There have been calls for the IOC to abandon the international legs of the relay, but as things stand, the flame is due in Canberra in 10 days, presumably surrounded by another massive security operation. Ted Quinlan heads the Canberra Relay Task Force. He joins us now, and with me here is Tenpa Dugda from Voice of Tibet, Australia. Tenpa, to you first. Australia's representative on the IOC, Kevin Gosper, has said torch protesters are professional spoilers filled with resentment and hate. He's got a point, hasn't he, given the events of the last few days in London, Paris and San Francisco?
I guess you have to see the message that the protests are bringing. We're asking for human rights, we're asking for freedom, and all the Tibetans who were at the London protest, they're asking for more freedom. And I
don't think anyone's got an issue with that. I think the issue, isn't it, is the method. Bowling over wheelchair-bound athletes in Paris, trying to extinguish the torch. What's your view of all of that?
I think it was fantastic.
It's fantastic.
It's fantastic because the attention that the Tibet is getting at the moment, and also the reason of why these protests are happening. And as you said, the journey of harmony. Is that happening in Tibet? I don't think so. And
I'm surprised to hear you say that, because you've always spoken about non-violence. But here you're saying this is fantastic. I mean, people have been outraged by this temper.
Well, I guess the non-violence and peaceful, obviously it was non-violence. Obviously it was peaceful.
That's not peaceful, what we've just seen there.
There wasn't been anyone who has been injured. But at the same time, we have to look why these protesters are happening, not just the focus on the protests, why these protests are happening. Because we have Tibetans all over the world whose families are being killed, whose families are being prosecuted for saying that His Holiness should come back to Tibet.
OK, Ted Quinlan, does that disturb you to hear that view from Tenpa?
It does a little, because hitherto we've heard from the Tibetan community at the national level and at the Canberra level, where they've said that they want peaceful protest. And of course we respect, like the Australian government respects, like the ACT respects, the right of any individual to involve themselves in peaceful protest.
OK, and you've always said that. You've come out saying, no, you haven't called for people not to have a protest and so forth. But if somebody like Tenpa here is saying that that's fantastic, what we've seen, what does that mean for your preparations?
Well, it's quite disturbing if we're encouraging people to actually interfere with the relay itself, or to try and extinguish the flame. I think that's really going too far. It's breaking the law, and it does mean that we have to now make very considerable arrangements to try and ensure that the relay goes through. Now, we're talking about the Olympic spirit here. It's a unifying force, and you know, I'd like the council, everybody that is thinking about this particular issue, to look at the closing ceremonies of the last Olympics of the modern era. Every one of those ceremonies is a merging of people from all nations, of all races.
OK.
It's a unifying message.
Well, can I get from you, Tenpa, what you're intending to do? Do you want to see scenes like London, Paris and San Fran repeated?
Obviously, as Ted said, the community here have made it sure to the community members that it would be peaceful protest and it would be non-violence protest.
Are you going to try and extinguish that flame? Is that part of what you'll try to do?
No, we don't have any plan like this at the moment. And I think the Tibetans in London, in Paris, one thing that provoked is having the Chinese security guard, because these are the same Chinese who are killing Tibetans in Tibet. So now that we don't have the Chinese security guard, thanks to Mr. Kevin Rudd, I think it would calm the Tibetans down, and we will see a non-violence but very powerful protest in Canberra.
A bit of a mixed message, but we should conclude with Ted. Ted, you know, we look at the pictures last night from Argentina. It was the only successful event of the torch-bearing thing, and there were 3,000 security. There were people arm in arm all the way around the perimeter of the torch. If that's what it's going to take, do you have to give up in future on this relay?
I have to say it's a great shame that what will happen here is that the public's view of the torch will be, and the relay will be, inhibited somewhat by the level of security, but that's what's been imposed upon us.
Do you give up in future? I mean, sponsors aren't going to be interested, are they?
It's not for me to say, but I'm pretty sure that the IOC has concluded that in future relays will probably only take place within the boundaries of the host nation.
Okay. Thanks, Tanpar, and thank you to Ted Quinlan in Canberra.
Thanks, Alan.
Our web poll